Good night, ladies and gentlemen. You are now tuned into the Collective Bargaining Podcast. Today, I'm going to be your host, Atway Campbell, and we are entering a period that is going to be high on excitement. As you know, the playoffs are fast approaching in April. As we kick into second gear here for the NBA, we're way past the halfway mark now. We're starting to see the teams that are starting to mint them and cement themselves in the playoffs. We're starting to see pretenders versus contenders right now, and it is going to be a blast to see this year with all the parity that we're seeing, because the teams that we thought that were going to absolutely dominate are not. We're seeing the complete opposite. And even though those teams can be associated with injuries and other things, missing time because of COVID, even when they have their stars on the table, we've seen actually those teams still struggling, right, to get a grip in their conferences respectively. So there's going to be a lot of things to discuss, but we're going to keep it short tonight. We're going to only have a half an hour segment, and we're going to try to just talk about the playoff picture as we get closer to the playoffs. So stay with me right now. We're going to talk. We're going to open things up to the comments here. We're going to have a conversation. And then we're going to pretty much close the show off and get ready for a good show on Thursday. Now, the playoff picture, right? Right now in the NBA, we're looking at a potential Eastern Conference where you could have Miami versus Brooklyn to start the playoffs. Now, this was arguably going to be a matchup that we would expect in, let's say the second round, but now we're talking Miami, Brooklyn off the bat. This is going to be something to behold, really. You're looking at Kyrie playing the away games as it stands right now. You're looking at KD playing all the games. And it's shown that when KD plays at a high level, that's when they win games. When he can control the pacing of the game, when he can actually, really sit down and stamp things out as a scorer at the center of the offense, that's when we can actually have the Nets really steamrolling teams. Now, as a team, when they have all their stars together, we've seen some struggles. And I don't know if it's because of, Kyrie's dominance on the ball, his scoring, his impact. I've always had questions about his impact on the scoring, etc. But it's yet to be seen, whether or not they can really pull together here. Ben Simmons, as you know, is listed as injured. And as a result, they're not sure on when they're going to get him back. So that's going to be something that, we're going to have to look out for, right? That's going to be something that we're going to have to really just be patient with. If you're a fan of the Nets, it's really going to be, I think it's going to come down to, is Ben going to get any time remaining in the regular season? Is Kyrie going to be helped by the changing of the rules in New York that would allow him to play home games? Because having him in and out has proved that it's not working. Now, some may argue that it's for other reasons, but I think it's definitely having an impact on a team when you have a guy here today, not there today. And some may say, well, he's in practice. Well, there are a lot of things that he can't do in that building, when they're at home. So it does impact the chemistry, I think. And if this continues into the playoffs, I think that you're going to be looking at a situation where they just don't gel in time. And we've seen the Lakers, for example, struggle with that. So it's really going to be an interesting series against Miami, because in Miami's case, what you have is a system. We've talked about it on the show before. Miami's a well-drilled system team. They're just like the Spurs. They're just like the Suns in that, they're a system. You can plug and play different players into those systems, and they will continue to roll forward. They don't rely on a specific player per se. Yes, you can argue in some cases that, you can have a situation where if Jimmy Butler is out, yes, they can struggle in tight situations where you need a closer. But it's widely accepted that those three teams are systems. Another matchup that's going to be intriguing, and this is one that I think is going to really excite fans, is Boston versus Chicago. I think you're going to see fireworks here with this particular matchup. Because in the case of Boston, I think you're looking at a team that has really reloaded. You're looking at a team that is really rejuvenated, has bought in, as my co host pointed out, and is now at a point where, you know, they kind of realize, hey, we can beat a lot of these teams if we settle into our offense, if we believe in the defense. So you could have a situation, I think it's a 4-5, which is crazy to even think about. Because here you have a seed that is, a 4 seed that was outside of the playoffs looking in for most of the season. And now they're the number 4 seed and doing a lot better. And I think they have a shot against this Chicago team. This Chicago team, as you've seen, is very worn down. You've had a lot of injuries. And that team is going to actually be, I think, working on chemistry issues as they ride into the playoffs here. They're not necessarily doing well, and it's no longer against the elite teams. Chicago's main problem was that they were 0-13 against the top 3 teams in every conference, whereas now it's a situation where they're just not doing good against any team. So can they get it together versus a team that really is starting to believe and does believe in themselves in Boston? That's going to be I think what you're going to have to look out for. In terms of Milwaukee versus Cleveland, that would be a potential 3 versus 6 seed matchup. I think what you're looking at there is really Milwaukee really dominating that series. I wouldn't go as far as maybe a sweep, but I think a gentleman's sweep would be honorable for what the Cavs have done. But I just don't think that they have that star power that's going to take them past the Milwaukee. I think it's good to see that team playing at that level. But to think that they would be competing against Milwaukee, I think would be, if that was to occur, I think you'd be looking at really a team that has overachieved if that was to happen. Anything is possible in basketball, right? But I think definitely you would be looking at a situation where, you would have to fancy Milwaukee having a gentleman's sweep really against that squad. In terms of the 2 versus 7, we're looking at Toronto versus Philadelphia. And, this is more interesting than I think most people are willing to accept. Yes, Philly is a number 2 seed, but we've seen that the East has been really back and forth, right? And I think we're looking at a situation where, and I got my partner here in crime about to join the show. Welcome to the show. We got a guest on the show right now. Just kidding. We got my co-host on the show joining in. No, I was just telling the audience about the number 2 versus 7 seed, which is Philly potentially versus Toronto. And I was saying that, Toronto versus Philly, most people, I know a lot of people would probably pick Philly outright off the top, but I have a few things to say here, especially when it comes to potentially Philadelphia versus Toronto. I think Toronto had a very slow start to the season, extremely slow start. And I think some of their players took a while to get going. You had injuries to, Siakam, guys that were key to the system there in Toronto, getting that train running, getting used to the new players coming in and players that they lost essentially. But I think Toronto has a grip, I think, on a playoff seed right now. I don't think they're going to slip out. I think what you're going to be looking at is maybe exchanging potentially with the Nets if the Nets can put together a solid run. But I see Toronto being a threat to Philadelphia. The reason I say that is depth issues that I see. And also, too, I see some issues with James Harden being pushed in the playoffs. It's yet to be seen if they can really exert that level of dominance. We know what Embiid can do. We know what he's capable of. And if he comes out, he does that, James Harden is anywhere near, I would say, just above average of what he can do, then I think they're a threat to any team. But I'm just saying that Toronto has players that know how to get it done, meaning they're consistent. When it comes to the experience that they have, I don't have questions anymore about them. they can come forward and create some problems, I believe, here. Do they have a standout player that's going to come out and dominate? That's going to go score, point for point versus Embiid? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if they can be consistent every game, and if they can score some big plays, if players can step up game to game, then I think this series can maybe go to a 6, and you never know from there. I'm not saying that Toronto is going to beat Philly, but I'm saying we need to differentiate between the dominance of Embiid and how good that Philly team is. I don't have really any comment yet. I don't think there's enough done to say Philly's some powerhouse yet. I don't see that.
No.
I think Embiid is a monster. He is. That's no question. But we've seen many monsters go down in the playoffs.
Easily.
We've seen many monsters go down. And I'm just saying that Toronto is an experienced squad with players that can get it done. They had a very slow start, but if you look at who they've beaten over the season, I think they have a shot.
I mean, they have a shot
they
to
have
go
a shot.
6, by the way.
Yeah, they have a shot.
They still fall into 6.
Yeah.
That's
So I think what's your take on that matchup? And a matchup that
potential.
yeah. And by the way, I'm gonna drink to I'm gonna try a new mix here. So there's this drink called Izzy. Some of you may know it. It's a drink that primarily, if you enter like a Chipotle, you'll actually find it. It's like a very bubbly type, carbonated type fruit drink. So I'm gonna take some lime and mix it in with the red label and see what I get. Now it could be terrible.
I'm snacking on some Grenadian chocolate.
That's not bad, man. That's not bad. Is it nutmeg flavor or something else?
No, this one is a dark and sweet from Juve.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope they're paying you for that ad you just cast.
They're not, but it's okay. we might see. But
yeah,
like you were saying about Toronto, they started off kind of slow. Like we honestly thought they were going into rebuild mode.
Yeah.
Based on the way they were going, but Nick Nurse is a great coach, and they stuck to the plan. Did what they had to do. Got all the guys incorporated piece by piece when they came back from injury. Didn't push guys too far. Took games off. To make sure the guys were well rested. They stayed on the journey that what they were doing, and they're playing solid games. Do I think that they're enough to beat Embiid and Harden? No, just based off of talent.
Yeah,
I think Harden and Embiid can beat them alone, just off their talents. Right. But I think if Harden and Embiid plays the Nets first round, or a good solid team, the Celtics maybe even the first round, just call them names, then I think it will push them, and they probably get knocked out in the first round.
Yeah. I think they have a shot. I think that series at least goes 5 or 6 games. If Philly does fall apart, then obviously you're looking at a game 7. But I just don't see it going past a 6. A series that I brought up before you joined that I find interesting is actually Boston versus Chicago.
That's 4-5, yeah.
That's 4-5 right now. Incredible that we're saying 4-5-4 as Boston, man. It just did not look like it was going to be that way.
A couple of weeks ago, we were looking at Boston at number 9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we were like, what's wrong with Boston?
That's insane.
And I remember I was like, they're still getting accustomed to the system.
Right.
Not all in yet. They still have a little problems between sharing the ball and all those things. And all of a sudden, boom. Jason just clicked.
Incredible. So I think that is actually, as I was stating before, I think that's a good matchup. The reason I say that, you have to remember, people are going to look at the fact that Chicago has been dominating the Eastern Conference, but I think they've been dominating really with teams struggling for many reasons.
To find their identities.
Exactly. And I think that we pointed out that we've been saying Chicago is a second round exit. We've been saying that Chicago couldn't beat the top teams. I've been yelling that all season. And then finally a statistic came out that they were 0-13 against the top 3 of every conference, right? So With that
especially at
said,
home.
exactly. So it's so that is baffling. But you add the injuries that they've suffered, right?
This is true.
And the fact that they haven't gelled as good prior to some of those injuries, right? Where
Yeah,
they were high flying against the teams that they should beat, right?
correct.
And we have a lot of questions right now, right? Lonzo's not back yet. He's
No.
not doesn't have a timetable at the moment. And on top of that, you're looking at Caruso's impact, which is far less than it was before, even though he's given you what he used to give you. But and then you're looking at really an exhausted pair of stars in Levine and DeRozan. They look exhausted out there, and
Yeah, they've got
um,
a lot of minutes. That's the thing.
yeah, and again, I thought this team looked like it had some form of depth to it, right? But that just is not the case. I think it's just a team that was well coached, that was beating the teams that it should beat. But I think in Boston, now that you have a two-headed monster there that's believing in the offense and the defense, I
And
think
Tatum coming into his own.
I think that's a major problem for Chicago.
It
I
is.
think that's because on the defensive side, I just don't see Chicago slowing down that offense.
Yes.
And
That
I think
Celtics defense
it's crazy.
is
It's crazy.
underrated.
It's crazy right now.
It is
So,
underrated.
I honestly think that is I think both teams will actually fancy it, which would make it a good series. I think
Yeah.
the way Chicago views Boston is that, okay, yeah, you're the 4 seed now, but it's only because we've had injuries. I think they still have this confidence that we're a top team in this league. We've
I think
dismissed you
so.
guys before. We don't care if you
Yes.
believe or not in your offense and defense. We can beat you. And I think
Yeah.
Boston looks at it that, like, you guys
We
have
can
only
beat any
been there
team.
because we've been struggling from the very start of the season, but now we're on. Nobody's stopping us, and I think that is deadly.
But
And
here's the craziest thing,
yeah,
right? Boston can easily overtake the Bucks, and it'll be a Bucks Bulls series.
yeah. Now that would
Or
be
even be 76ers, and it could
that
be a
in
76ers Bulls
itself.
series.
Both the reason why both of these are fire matchups is because I think of Chicago believing they can beat Boston and vice versa. That's the
Correct.
type of series that can easily go to 7, right? Given the talent on the floor.
Oh yeah.
The
I'll say
if
6, but
Milwaukee versus, I think Chicago can beat. No, now we haven't said who wins this series. So you're saying Boston wins this. I don't
Game
think Boston
6.
is a clear shot. I see a game 7, and I cannot say that Boston wins this series. I cannot say that Boston wins this series. Chicago is, despite being weakened against the top teams out there, we have to remember that Boston is not part of that equation. So
Okay.
I'm not going to say that they take this easily. I'm not going to say, I just think that this is a very good matchup. Now, if they do face Milwaukee, it's good in the sense that these are two rival cities.
It's good.
Milwaukee
It's good for
being
who?
just Milwaukee
For
just
the
being,
Bulls?
well, no, I'm not saying it's a good matchup. I'm saying
Okay.
it's an exciting series because
Yeah,
of
because it's right there.
the
It's right
rivalry,
there.
right?
Yeah.
You have two cities. It's kind of like a derby in a sense. Two cities that are
Yes.
just an hour and a half apart. So, there's not really, I wouldn't call it hate, but
No,
it's just,
it's
with
it's not
Wisconsin
a
and the
real
Packers.
rivalry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it bleeds over from football sometimes in the sense that you got the Packers that are right there in Wisconsin, and that tends to bleed over to Chicago, right? That dislike, so to speak. But
The
it's not
Bears.
really,
Yeah.
you go to those games and it's not really Milwaukee, small tiny city versus the Giants of Chicago. I mean, come on, man, you got one
Exactly.
title versus 6,
Come
but
on.
it's still a little rivalry. Okay, I guess it's still a little rivalry. I guess. So we go to the West, right? Potentially right now. So right now we're not even registering. It's
The
interesting right
Flames.
now because you don't even have the Lakers in the picture right now because of where they stand. Right? You have the Suns versus the Clippers as it stands right now.
Correct.
And in that matchup, I would say
I
that's
mean,
a
that
clear.
could all change, but
Yeah, I think that's a sweep.
possibility.
I would carry that as a sweep, to be honest.
I mean, the Suns are 70 I saw the stat today. They're over 70% win percentage when Chris Paul plays. Actually, no, I think it's 85
Yeah,
when he plays. When he
yeah.
doesn't play, they're over 70% win percentage. So even if he comes back or not, I think they'll win it in 4 or 5.
It's one of those system teams I said. So, and that's
Yeah,
one of the best system run teams in the
it is. It really
in the
is.
NBA. So I just don't think these teams that don't have even a star on their squad right now have a chance. I just don't think
Even
that's
though the Clippers are the only team in the NBA to come back from 25 down,
not in the
multiple
playoffs, man.
occasions.
Not in the
But I mean,
playoffs.
the playoffs are completely different.
Yeah, I think they get swept easily, and I don't say that lightly. We respect all teams, but this is just
Suns and Pope.
Suns
Suns
is
and
four
Pope.
easily. Um,
Suns and Pope.
Intriguing matchup, Jazz versus Dallas. Honestly
Yeah,
speaking, I think
that should be
because of
good.
the defense. Now, Luca is a different animal right now. Let me point that out. I think somewhere along the season, especially with Porzingis out of his head, you
Once
saw
Porzingis left, that
you
was
saw a complete rewiring back to what we
I
thought he
told
was.
I told you Porzingis was holding him back, man.
You know,
They were trying to
funny.
incorporate him, and it just wasn't working.
Funny, and he was demanding a higher usage rate, right?
Yeah,
Um, without justifying it. Someone wrote an article not too long ago, and thinking about it, they said that in 2 years he might not be in the league. And you look at it, you look at that situation, right? And honestly speaking,
if he stayed in Dallas, in 2 years he would not have been in the league.
yeah, but I think even if, as he is right now, I question if he's going to remain in the league.
But he's
I
still
don't think
he's playing solid for Washington.
he's playing for Washington, but I just honestly, teams that are, you never know when Bradley Beal comes back and
Right.
they're looking to actually win games. We're talking in the next 2 years, right? I
Right,
think they're
right.
going to figure him out.
That's if Bradley stays.
Right. I think he's going to get figured out. That's my take on there, So
Right.
Jason was saying Jazz coming back. So he's saying that Jazz, shout out to Jason, by the way.
What up, Jason?
Unruly doctor. That's his calling, But definitely he's saying the Jazz will come back. But I think, the Jazz definitely will find their way. The Jazz are a solid team. I think the Jazz right now are just kind of cruising into the playoffs. I think they're built for the playoffs.
I think they're in the position they want to be.
Yeah. They've been floating around 3, 4 for the entire playoff, the entire
3, 4,
season,
5, yeah.
and just been consistent. So I think and I think honestly, if I was the front office, I would tell Mitchell, take it easy on your limbs. Let's just get into the dance first. We know what you can do. Win us some games, keep us steady, but go all out when the playoffs come. And I think they're starting to realize that.
What's interesting is the Mavs have been one of the best teams for the season the last couple of weeks. The Jazz, when Rudy's in the game, is one of the best teams on the floor.
Yeah.
Defensive teams, on the floor.
Yeah.
So I want to see how it pans out, because then basically you have to go offense for offense, which is going to be Mitchell against Luka.
Yep.
Who's got a better offense?
That's not an easy question. And
I'm taking Luka.
I can't. I don't think it's that straightforward, man.
By this, I'm taking Luka by this.
I look at what Luka's done, and you have to show respect. You have to show respect for what Luka's done. It's insane, right? But I mean, if we're strictly talking offense, just offense, I mean, man, Mitchell. After what I saw with him and Murray, man, oh my Lord, whew. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
It's
that's
tough,
a tough one.
right?
Yeah,
but he has the. There's sometimes in some games he has this knack for becoming stagnant in the offense.
Yeah,
and I've seen it a couple times. Like he is like when he's about to take over a game, and you see he wants to take over a game.
Yeah,
but he doesn't know what he's supposed. I don't know if it's what he's supposed to do, or if he's thinking too much about where he should go or what he should do now, instead of it just coming nice and through the game to him. So it looks like he's I shouldn't say forcing, but it comes across as if he's trying to force the issue.
Yeah, and I think let me put it this way. I think he's of the two relative to each other. I think you would quicker slow him down than you would Luka.
I agree. Yes.
That's how I would
Yes.
differentiate the two. I think
Yes. I
both are
agree. I
elite
agree.
offense, but I think you would quicker slow him down
Than
than
Luka.
than Luka. I think
And
Luka
that's
just
and that's the
has
reason. That's the reason why I took Luka above, because
yeah,
Luka just
yeah.
has that. Even if he's not scoring, he can still pass it around.
Yeah, he's more of a playmaker too than Donovan.
Exactly.
So he has a wider repertoire than I think Donovan does. Who you got in that matchup though?
I gotta take my boy Luka sometimes.
Okay. It's a tough one, man, but I think I'll
In
go with the
six.
Jazz. I think the
In
Jazz
six.
in 6 or 7.
All right, cool. Six.
Yeah, and I think we'll have to do some bets on this one, man.
We
I think
definitely
we
have this. Definitely has this.
we've been betting all season, right? So I think
Definitely gotta do some bets.
I think we'll definitely have to do that one. The no, I think for some of these bets, because some of these round 1 series, guess what? We will both be in the same vicinity. I
Hey.
think we're gonna have to
Yeah.
come. We might be on mobile for 1 or 2 shows, but I think definitely we will be at a restaurant. We haven't picked that yet, but I think
That's
we're
true.
gonna have to definitely pay off on some of these bets. It might be by a beach or something, so to speak, but it might, we're gonna have to settle some of these bets in person, so to speak, very soon. So,
Even better.
yeah. Now, this one's, some may say it's straightforward. Some may say that it's not. Golden State versus Denver.
This is a tough one, because especially with Steph being out, it makes it a little bit more even playing field, I should say.
Right.
I want to say the Warriors in 5. It's going to be 5 close games, but it's going to be 5. Only because once Draymond is healthy, Clay is healthy, and I think the rest of the supporting cast is enough to stop. Well, especially because Draymond is there, he's a defensive anchor, and he's one of the top playmakers. So once he's there, I think that's enough just for them to get over the Nuggets and the potential MVP there in Denver.
Okay. Yeah, I think as it stands, if Draymond comes back, I think we know what he brings to the table. I think we're definitely going to be looking at a situation where they're not going to go too far in the playoffs. But let's just put it this way, if somehow, and the reports coming in on Murray were not positive, so we already know that he's not going to be at 100%. He may not even play for the rest of the season, to be honest. It leaves them really in a situation with not enough firepower against the Warriors team. It's just not a fair matchup, I think, and I think ultimately we could even be looking at a sweep if Steph is back in the lineup in time, if Draymond is there and these guys start firing the way we know they or the way we think they will. I think we're looking at a sweep, to be honest. I think that's a sweep. I just don't think the Nuggets, I think you're gonna see high stats coming out of the guy that we know can put it up, but I just think that the weapons that they have is not gonna be something that is gonna be close per se. Now we're gonna move on to another matchup here, and this one,
the most exciting matchup that I want to see.
Really.
This is the most exciting matchup that I want to see.
Memphis Grizzlies versus the Minnesota Timberwolves.
The two young squads.
Honestly, they're young, but I think these teams are leagues apart. I think that Memphis blows them off the floor, to be honest.
Really? As in a sweep?
Yeah. I think Jason was asking, about the Warriors and Magic And
They're
who's
playing
going to
now.
win that. I think, you know, the game right now. So with the game right now, I think what you're going to be looking at is the Warriors right now. You're in quarter four, which I'm a bit surprised about, but they don't have. I don't think they have Steph right now. They don't
No,
have,
Steph is up.
but they do have Draymond back. I think maybe they keep it tight going into the late. The Orlando. I saw Orlando in person not too long ago, right? And they were playing the Bulls, and you know the Magic tend to keep it close. Where they tend to fall apart is where the youth comes in late in the fourth. So Chicago, for example, when they faced them, pulled away in like the last 3 minutes of the game. And I think that's what you're gonna see in this match. So I'm gonna have to go with the Warriors starting to pull away as the game inches closer to that last 3 minutes of the game.
You know what's the interesting thing, right? Well, I'm looking here at the box score,
Right.
and of course, who wins the third quarter by a big margin? The Warriors,
Yep.
36-19 in the third quarter.
Yep. That's
What
what
is it
that's where
about
they
the
do their magic.
Warriors and
I
the
I think
third
it's by
quarter?
design. I think it's by design. Kerr has figured out something that I think the players, he shared it in a certain way with the players, but I think
Yeah.
behind closed doors, he's figured out the math to a basketball game. And yes, it
Yes.
may seem kind of stupid to say that, but I think he's figured
No,
something
that's what it
out
is.
with the energy, with how to pace his team and the rotations. And I think he's just stuck with it. And teams, even though they kind of
They know
understand what
what's
he's
coming.
doing, you can't
Yeah.
stop it. And that is something that you just have to respect because they've done it from time to time. At first, I used to be like, you know what, this is just unbelievable. But as you look at it more and more, they do it from time and time and time and time again. It's by design. It's not something that these guys are doing out of luck. So that's interesting. That's interesting that
Yeah,
that you mentioned that.
I was looking at so I was looking at a couple podcasts today, and it was mentioning how, listen, all right, so let's say CP3 is your top player. You know he's a closer in the fourth quarter. He's gonna
Right.
want a ball in his hands,
Right.
and but you don't have him working. And when I say working, like you don't have him playing defenses for the first three quarters. You have him just stand in the corner because
Right.
the guy is a spot up shooter, so he just stands there. He doesn't have to guard him really. I mean, unless he has the ball. So
Right.
it's not like you have him. It's not like you have Steph. Let's just say Steph is attacking him, running him off screen, so he's getting picked all day. He's running behind Steph. Kind of like a Rip Hamilton, Ray Allen kind of thing. He's guarding them. So when the fourth quarter comes,
Yeah.
he's tired, and he's like, "Yo, I don't want the ball. You hold the ball. I'll probably just bring it up and pass it around if anything."
Right.
But so it's similar to that because they hit you in the third because it's right after a rest. So they
Right.
hit you hard in the third.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you hit you hard in the third, it's like, damn, these men just scored 40 points. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
And
tired.
when you go into the fourth up 20, I mean that's not easy. Some teams can do it, but the math says that it's a rare occasion that a team will climb back.
It's
that much.
mentally demoralizing.
Yeah.
When you enter the fourth quarter down by 15, 18,
Yeah.
20 points.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
And not many teams can shoot.
Even if you're up by 10 at the beginning of the third, and then boom, they switch it and
It's gone. It's gone.
And it's gone, and you're down by 10. It's like, damn.
Yep.
Like, we just played one quarter and they're already.
It's almost like coming into after just before the half, the last 6 minutes, you gotta rest your players, man. You gotta rest your players and come out with intensity, to know that this team is gonna come out to try and blitz you. It's a blitz. That's what they try to do to teams.
It's really.
And it's worked quite a lot. But I see here Orlando is still keeping it slightly close despite that.
Close.
But that's what they do. Let's see what happens in the last 3 minutes. I think they start pulling away and win the match. I think that's what I envision here.
Left.
And there's probably someone that's actually probably shooting very well on Orlando that's probably keeping it close. But
They
we'll
got
see
a
what
couple
happens.
players in double figures.
Okay.
They got 3 players in double figures.
Right.
Nothing big, you know. Carter Jr. with 17,
Right.
Cole Anthony 14, and Wagner at 13, and then you got a bunch of
Uh,
single digits.
yeah, you got
Nothing
some out there.
significant.
Right. So back to the playoff picture, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So who takes that series for you? Memphis Grizzlies versus
Oh,
Minnesota.
The Grizzlies take it, but I just it's just a series that I want to see because it's like two young squads going against each other. Like
Right.
I just want to see that. I want to see what Cat is able to do. I want to
Yeah.
see what Ant is going to do because the also want to see what Bev's going to do because Bev is entertaining. I love Bev. Right? Because
I,
Timberwolves got a nice little young core because they got D'Lo, they got Ant, and they got Cat. So that's a nice little trio to go up against, the main guy Ja and his nice squad.
I'm not gonna buy it, but I think that the Grizz are a much better coach team. I think, I think just execution wise, I think they're a step above them. And I think they're gonna show that when the series comes. But we'll see what happens. I think that's a
A little bit
potential
better.
bet right there that we may have. If it does hold, if the seeding does hold,
Yeah.
in this manner, I think that's what we'd be looking at. It
So
looks like they're starting to open up a little bit here, especially with Steph being out. So the Grizz may kind of solidify that two seed.
I think
As
they
they,
have.
yeah, I think they probably will.
I think they
But it's close. I mean, if you look at between 2 and 4, really, 2 and 5. I mean, anything can
four,
happen, really.
four, five, and
Um,
separated by 5 games. Yeah.
yeah, I think how many games left. It's still enough games to really turn this on its head, right? So I mean, I think maybe you can have some shuffling around there, maybe
A couple
especially
games.
between 2 and 3. So let's see what happens there. But I'd love to see, as it's currently constructed, maybe I would want to see the Lakers win that play-in.
Listen.
Um,
I listen. I'm all for the play. As you say, the playing. I'm all for the playing, right? But here's what I have against the playing. If the
mhm.
team in eighth position, I think we spoke about this before. Like the Clippers are now 36 and 37. The Lakers are 31 and 41, which is basically like what 4.5 games behind,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
If a team is more, to me, if a team is more than, all right, let's say I was going to say 5 games behind, I do not think that there should be a play-in game, especially 8 and 9, and the separation is 5 games. Why is there a play-in?
I think you need to have the play-in. Just entertainment
Still,
value. Yeah, yeah. I would.
come on,
I
man. Then
definitely want to see that.
what's the point of me establishing my dominance during the regular season if a guy that loses
There's
five
no
more games than I do
but
is
there's
just
no dominance in the.
potentially win?
But you're the eighth seed. There's no
It
dominance in the
doesn't
eighth
matter.
seed. There's no
Man,
dominance in the eighth
come
seed.
on,
Come on.
come
There's
on,
no dominance
come
there.
on.
I
Listen,
mean,
I'm
you're
better
number eight.
than
You're number eight.
I'm better than 7 other teams.
Yeah, but you're 7 and 8. And what's funny too is get a load of this, right? The Nuggets are only a half game up on the T-Wolves. So
Yeah.
so
That's
potentially
true. This is
so
true.
potentially you could have the
The Grizz
Nuggets
and
slip
Nuggets,
out of that position
into
um
7.
into 7.
Ooh,
If
the
I'm
Clippers
you
could
know
beat the Nuggets. That's interesting. And then the Lakers
interesting
beat.
enough, if I'm the Nuggets, if I'm the Nuggets, I'm slipping out of the 6th seed, taking the 7th
Why?
seed, knowing that I can beat the I can beat the whoever's in that 8th seed and play the Grizzlies. Young squad, as you put it together, I think I have a better shot there than I do with if it was the other way around. So there's that.
But you do realize if they drop, they have to play in the play.
Yeah. I
So
do
that's
understand that, and that's a risk maybe that the team wouldn't take. But yeah, no. Okay, so when you get back, we're gonna discuss. We'll discuss.
deep and
I
back.
think. Yep. So my co-host is gonna be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Now, when he gets back, we're actually going to discuss a few things here. We're going to discuss the power rankings, who we believe are, the top teams right now, and we'll actually, as I said, close the show a bit early today in preparation for Thursday. If you're interested, by the way, I would invite you to tune in tomorrow to another podcast. I'm actually going to share that by the end of the show here, by the Green Page. And basically, that's a podcast where we discuss American football and, just the general state going into the off season. So I'll have a couple pointers there. We'll be talking about a lot of the off season moves, especially the Bears. The podcast is not run by myself, but definitely, we want you to tune in and get a chance to listen in on that. Welcome back, man. Welcome back.
Thanks, appreciate
Yep,
it.
yep. So definitely, at the moment, I think we were saying that they wouldn't want to drop into the play-in because of the risk of potentially losing, right?
Yeah,
And dropping out
you
of
could
that
easily lose two
seven seed.
games and you're done.
Potentially, yep, yep. And you wouldn't want to face the Lakers potentially in that second match if you happen to
Exactly,
lose that first match. So,
exactly.
so I think definitely just go against the Warriors and get dumped out of the first round.
I mean,
Which I
you might have a better chance because Steph is in there. So
Yeah.
it
How
could
long is
also.
Steph out for?
They said it's on the fine, but initially they said until he was going to be re-examined at the end of the season.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah,
Did they give it a grade? As to the sprain,
nah, they
or
didn't. It was good thing it wasn't any.
it wasn't a
Didn't need
tear or
surgery or
anything,
anything.
of
Yeah, it
course,
wasn't a
right?
tear
Yeah.
or anything. So it
Okay.
doesn't really
Okay.
need surgery or anything.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just,
interesting. That's
I guess
interesting.
it's mainly just rest and stretching.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it.
So,
Yeah. No, that should be interesting there. No. So I think that's the playoff picture going into the season, and we'll continue to revisit the playoff picture. As the brackets change. As we go through the season. But we're getting very, very close. Things are getting tight. Players. We're gonna see really a picture of who's who. But it looks like the Lakers are just dancing above, keeping that 9 seed. The Spurs are just kind of, it's almost like they smell it, but they're right there too. If they were to put
listen,
together a run, this could
the
all
Pelicans
change.
is there, the
Yeah,
Spurs is there,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
even the Trail Blazers is right there.
Right, right. But they don't have Simmons. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. That's
but
true.
that would be interesting. Would you bring Dame back? If you knew that
No,
you had a
no,
chance, if you made it into
no,
the plane, would you bring him back?
no.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I just had
That's
to.
too much. That's too much of a risk for like a Cinderella-ish story.
Yep, yep. No, no, no. I got it, got it. Um,
Save him for next season.
yep. I agree. I agree.
Trade him away to the Lakers.
Ah, man, I don't know how they. So what do you take? What do you do? You take Russell Westbrook. It's not like you can buy him out. What do you take for Dame's salary though?
You take Westbrook.
And what is as an expiring contract or
Yeah,
short
as an
contract?
expiring contract.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean that might be something to look into.
free up some salary space.
Yep, yep. No, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. Um, Definitely. But I just don't think they have the picks to facilitate a trade like that. Knowing what
Yeah,
Dame brings to the table.
that's the only thing. I mean, but I think it would be a solid trade for the Lakers, and I think it will be a decent trade for the Blazers because they don't really have a point guard like Russ at the moment.
Right. Yep.
A
No,
Phil,
that's true.
a Phil, a facilitating. Jeez, that took a while. Facilitating point guard like
Yeah.
Russ. And they don't have one that attacks the basket like him either.
Right. Now you raised the a point here on the group, right? Where we post a lot of stats. You had mentioned that the top 6 MVP candidates record versus each other. And
Yep.
interesting, Luka was 7-2
7-2.
against the big 6, pretty much big 5, outside of himself.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it's not particularly close. when it
Yeah.
comes
So
to
people need to understand the stat is basically when they play each other.
Oh
So it's
yeah,
like me and Atwe
yeah,
play
yeah,
each other. Me, Atwe, and Luca play against each other, and I have a losing record of one. I won one, they won the other couple of games, so I'm 1-2.
yeah. That
Right?
that's crazy. That's insane. It's not what is really insane there is that it's not particularly close.
No, it's
When
not
you
because
look at
Luca
it,
is way
so
ahead,
yeah, so that's. I mean, if
and
only these
that's
things, and if it was an individual award, these are the things that you would have to look at. And that's
correct.
how I actually wish it was. Like, look at how they perform against each other. Look at their individual
Yes,
performances, and I think the award would be so much more respected. But because it has this team narrative to it, which I think you can give a leadership award or something for something like that. Just have
leadership.
like a team leader award or something different from MVP. But when you hear most valuable, it's that guy that's just able to have these individual performances that are just out of this world. And I think you should give it to the best player, every year. It should go to the best player every year on the court, and I think it's kind of sad that it hasn't, because if it did, we would have had situations where, I mean, maybe Jordan gets more. You're looking at
I mean,
Kobe
Jordan did
getting
deserve
a bit
more.
more. Yeah, but you're looking at Kobe getting a bit more.
Two more,
You're looking at LeBron getting a bit more. You're
two
looking
more.
at it interesting enough, you would have had less diversity with it. So I think that's why they keep this
Yeah,
this
I mean,
narrative.
it's all
Um,
about the storyline.
yeah, it
Because if you
is. It
think,
is.
I mean, the year Westbrook won, I think he was definitely the true definition
Yeah.
of MVP
Yes.
because that
That's
was the
correct.
first time he averaged a triple double, and I think
Yeah.
he had the score. Did he have the scoring title that year as well?
I'm not sure. It could have been. Could have been.
Right. So, right. So he had the triple double that year. Single-handedly brought the team because it
Yeah.
was just him to the playoffs. I think they were the 6th seed or something like that, 5 or 6,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
I think it
It was a
was.
true definition of
Yeah.
MVP because without him, I don't think they
They
make the
don't go
playoffs.
anywhere, and that's what we need to see more of, to be
Yeah,
honest. So it's just kind of sad that we don't see that. We get more of a narrative that's based on your team record, and I think it's
yeah,
used against certain players. I think this whole fatigue system that analysts talk about on TV, is ridiculous. I think you shouldn't be getting tired of. If you truly love the game, if you truly respect the game, then you don't get tired of crowning someone the MVP. You don't get
agreed.
exhausted with that. That's the
It's
crappiest
you see,
excuse.
that's
Um,
the thing. It's like it's so I don't want to say it's the Michael Jordan effect because technically it's the Michael Jordan effect. Like a player is so good, you're accustomed seeing them play so great all the time that it becomes normal to see them play this way. When the truth and fact is,
yeah,
it's not normal.
yeah, and that's true. That's true. So I think ultimately, hopefully the game evolves. I think you know just like I think we've seen the All-Star game evolve, the willingness to change the rules. I think there's room to actually change the way um, we view the MVP, and I think it needs more structure to it. Rather than having guys like Stephen A. and others, control a narrative on their shows, I think we need to have, okay, these are the rules of voting for MVP. These are the parameters, and try to really make it transparent. And I think that brings a ton of respect to what you're trying to accomplish as a league, But until we get that, I don't think you're gonna have that respect. I think people are just gonna view it as, yeah, you're gonna have these Nash type players getting the MVP. I don't think Nash should be anywhere close to MVP. Give him, outstanding award for leadership or something. Name
Outstanding
it after a
offensive
player.
player.
Name it after a player, that was known to help their team carry their team. So
So should they do similar to the NFL and be like the offensive MVP
yeah, or
and then
no,
the
I think
overall
I
MVP?
think do best player in the league, give
Best
the best
offensive
player
player.
award, then have you could keep it as MVP and have that be the outstanding player award, but name it after a player, to
Right.
change it up a bit. And then I think from that standpoint, I think you have that differentiation. So it's more like an outstanding star award,
Mm.
and versus the best player in the league, because I think that throws off things a bit. The MVP doesn't mean, and we've seen that Nash was not the best player in the league. Nash was not a top 5 player in the league when he won MVP. I'm sorry, and a lot of MVPs were not the best player in the league when they won, so. And we saw a lot of that in the thousands. I think we saw a lot of that in we didn't see a lot of it, but it existed in the 90s when Jordan was around, and prior to him as well. So
Carmelo
I would
stole a
like to
lot
see
of
that
MVPs.
changed. Yeah, I would like to see that changed, honestly. So it's one of those things. But yeah, with that said, definitely I would say we got a lot of prep coming in. Let's prep, because as I say, we got a season break coming. We got and we want to close out things big. We want to do another panel, but this time with the full cast on. We want to have Chiron back on. We want to have definitely some other fellows on to discuss the league and what we expect going into the playoffs. So tune in. It's not gonna be fun. It's gonna be serious as we
Listen,
prepare for these playoffs, people.
these playoffs are going to be so nice, man. They're going to be
Definitely,
so
definitely,
nice.
definitely.
I can't
So
wait.
I can't wait either. So definitely there's going to be a lot on the line. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have some in-person bets to close. So stay tuned to definitely the group here, because we're going to have some drinks to drink up on, right? So
You mean
yeah.
you are?
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. We need a count on that. I may have to go back through the episodes and see what's going on. But I think I'm like up like 7-2 or something like that. So it's
Seven.
it's crazy. It's like
Wow.
Luca versus the other six here, 7-2.
Seven.
You already
Okay.
know. I'm floating
Okay.
with 7-2 unless there's actual proof from all the episodes that it's not 7-2. So we'll see.
Man
We'll
said
see.
seven.
Definitely, most def.
Oh
But
wow.
let's see.
Okay.
Let's rock with that. Let's rock with that. I mean, all right, I could do 7-3, but I don't think you want 3 though. So,
When?
all
When
right.
you get seven?
It's crazy though. But definitely, folks, catch us this Thursday. It's the Collective Bargaining Podcast. You already know.
Right.
All right. All right, folks. See you.
Thanks. Thanks
Peace
for coming
out.
out, guys.